It's fun to learn more about who's here, and for those who traveled, I honestly don't think we've ever had several from that distance, so it's great that you guys are here. So hopefully, did you do your homework last night? So talked about your cherish list? Yeah?
No, when we pulled up, I did notice a young man hiding in the bushes as his wife was approaching.
Yes, where are you?
And he jumped out and
Raise
got
your
her.
hand. Where are you?
There. And it was awesome.
That was awesome. That made our entire morning right there.
He took the application very seriously. He is the role model. And I said, now I hope your wife likes that. It would be really awkward if she didn't.
She did mace him, so hopefully your eyes
Yeah, no, why is she sitting over there?
Yeah, so well done. We give you bonus points.
Yes.
So
maybe we can convince
you're
Tim.
excused, as a matter of fact. You're just done. You've got it all down. So, all right. Well, Erin and I want to, as we shared last night, we want to talk about what we believe really is one of the most important foundations for marriage. Love this quote. Show it to you. Be fearless in pursuit of what sets your soul on fire. Erin, I believe that if we're going to have a great marriage, it's going to happen because the two individuals are well cared for, that they are fully alive. And this can be hard. We're going to show you a quick video clip from a movie called Seabiscuit. So watch what happens, and we'll talk a little bit about what we heard.
Why don't you just squeeze them around one turn, give the folks a look.
Great.
Red Pollard, Mr. and Mrs. Howard.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello. Well, we'll just be moving on.
Does he breathe?
Well, we'll find out.
Seems pretty fast.
Yeah, in every direction. Hell, he's so beat up, it's hard to tell what he's like. I just can't help feeling they got him so screwed up running in a circle, he's forgotten what he was born to do. He just needs to learn how to be a horse again.
Well, how do you do that?
How far do you want me to take him?
Till he stops.
Okay. That seems like a pretty good ride.
Hope so.
Boy? Yeah, all right. Let's see what you got, boy. Ha! 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 Woo! That's it,
Yeah. That's the key right there.
You got it?
Love when the trainer says that they've got him so screwed up, running around in circles, that he's forgotten what it means to be a horse. And I think in so many ways that we have an enemy, and that enemy wants to kill, steal, and destroy. And I think one of the best strategies that he uses is that same idea that he's got us so screwed up, running in circles, busy, exhausted, worn out, trying to do all these things, plates overflowing with so many good things that we've forgotten what we were born to do. So Erin and I want to begin there this morning and talk about what were we born to do. Because the better we understand that and are able to live that out, that has such a direct impact on our marriage. It allows us to really do marriage as God intended. So what were we born to do?
Yeah, and we believe it comes right out of the greatest commandment. You think about this is the greatest commandment. And it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so often we hear that, and especially within the church, it's selfish to love myself. But yet in the greatest commandment, it's saying, love your neighbor, and your spouse is your closest neighbor. And love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so often what I think we do, and I know especially as women, and men do it as well, but as women, I have found that the propensity is to replace that word as and insert the word instead. So I'm going to love my neighbor instead of myself. Now, it doesn't say that. It says as you love yourself. And as Greg was saying, what we found is that marriages are so much healthier based on both individuals being fully cared for, abundantly full, not running around empty, exhausted, not certain what direction we're going. The enemy loves to keep us just in the vortex of chaos. But yet when both individuals are so well cared for that I'm loving myself, it's my job as I'm loving my neighbor, my family, my friends, my coworkers, makes a huge difference. Huge difference when I'm not giving from a place of emptiness. So we truly believe that godly self-care is something that we are called to individually to make sure that we are well cared for spiritually, intellectually, physically, emotionally. And, this is just the simple, straightforward definition, the God-given responsibility to care for yourself so you can love others from a place of fullness and abundance. I know for me, there's a great difference when I'm giving out to others from a place of emptiness. Because then, boy, the kids, 4 kids, adult children, young kids, they have needs. And I give a lot to them. My clients, I pour out. But then Greg gets home.
I'm very needy, so.
But so often the thought is, oh, he's an adult. He's fine. He can take care of himself. Well, I don't want to give him leftovers. I want him to get my very best. But I've got to have something to give. Otherwise, if he has a want, a desire, and if I'm empty, I show up bitter, irritated, annoyed. That's not what I want. That's not how I want to show up.
Yeah, in math, which I'm terrible at, but if you hearken back to your early days of math class, way to bring that one up, Miss 4.3. So back in math class, remember that the formula that 2 negatives equal what? Yeah, well, that is not true within marriage. 2 negatives, 2 people who are empty, exhausted, worn out, running around in circles, that can never create the kind of marriage that we all want. We're here for a reason. We want to have a great marriage. And it has to start because the individuals are well protected. Again, if you think back to that trainer's quote, they've got him so screwed up, running around in circles, that he's forgotten what he was born to do. We were born to love. That is our purpose here on earth. I don't think it can be put any simpler than that. We were born to love God, to love others, but to love ourselves. As Erin was talking about, in that greatest commandment, there's only 2 commands. We are commanded to love God and to love others. The loving self part isn't a command, it's an assumption that Christ was making, that we are doing that job because that's a responsibility he's given us. I am responsible for taking care of me. Her job is not to take care of me. She's an amazing helpmate. As I am her assistant, she is my assistant on that journey. But you and I, we are responsible for our well-being, to make sure that we are full, that we have tapped into God as the sustainer of our life, that we're able to go to that source constantly to make sure we have something to give. We can't give what we don't have. So as we think about this idea, right, of godly self-care, this is a theme throughout scriptures. This isn't something that's simply in the greatest commandment, although that should be enough. But you think about the different verses that talk about this, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness. Christ, remember, the enemy came to kill, steal, and destroy. Christ came so that we would have life and have it what? Yeah, there's an abundant there. That God's desire for us is that we have so much to give out that we can just go to him, get full, and then turn right around in love and to give that out. So how do we do that? That's a great idea. That's a wonderful plan. We know we need to do that. But what does that really look like? Lots of things. I mean, we could probably spend an entire day unpacking how do we really do this. I need simple. Is anybody else like just simple? Like, don't give me 10 things, just give me a couple things. So Erin and I want to talk about just 2 things to help us really live out this godly self-care. Erin and I believe that if we can figure out what gives us rest and what gives us life, that those 2 things will help us go a long ways in keeping full. Because those are very different. Sometimes even we confuse those as almost being the same thing. Those are extremely different. What gives me rest will probably not bring my heart alive. And what sets my soul on fire probably are things that aren't going to give me rest. But the better we can understand what gives me rest and what gives me life, boy, that can make such a big difference. Does that sound good? So we're just going to walk through those 2. Let's start with what gives us rest.
Mm-hmm. Like Greg said, these 2 things are very different. So it's good to make it very differentiated that we can see what is it. And as we're talking about this, be thinking about what is it for me? What brings me rest? What brings me life? Think about this scripture, Matthew 11:28. Even reading this scripture just brings my soul rest. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Doesn't that just, I know for me, just reading that. If you're weary, if you're burdened, come to me, and I will give you rest. But what does this mean? What is rest? Simple definition, it's when you're stopping. You're seizing movement in order to relax, refresh, recover. Just to let your body, your soul, just have a moment. And what this really looks like is that we're being intentional about just recharging. Because we don't do that well. Giving our body just time just to recuperate, to mend. And we don't do that well as a society because I know for me, I speak this to myself daily because I have a fast pace and I can go, but I'm learning to be intentional about just stopping, seizing, breathing, just resting so my body, my soul, my mind, my heart can just recharge. I know you saw this growing up from your dad, that after he would go do a big event, often he came home and rested. Yeah,
my brother and I just couldn't wait for my dad to return back from a seminar, and so he would be gone. Sunday would come, he would come back, and so we just were excited to see him. Couldn't wait to interact, go outside, play catch, whatever. So this one time, we were waiting for my dad. He actually got home a little bit early. My brother and I are outside playing in the backyard. He comes home exhausted. He's poured out. He just needs rest. So he sits down in his big lazy boy recliner and just kind of kicks that thing back and falls sound asleep. So as he is resting peacefully, my brother and I come in and find him right there in the chair, sound asleep. And it was really super irritating for me. Because I'm like, how rude. Like, he didn't even come find us and say hello. And, you know, clearly he hates us and he cares more about sleeping. And so I said to my brother, we should do something to Dad. Like, we need to train him not to do that. He should come and find us and give to us. We have needs as well, that kind of thing. So I said to my brother, who's about 5 years younger, I said, let's do something to Dad. What should we do? My brother's like, I don't know. And then again, it was like a vision from the Lord. I get these periodically. Usually good things don't follow. Anyway, so I thought, hey, I said, Michael, go out to the backyard and go get the super Barker breaker. Have you ever heard of a super Barker breaker? This is actually it. This is a real thing. My father was so irritated by our family dog, Holly, because she barked nonstop. So he was watching an infomercial one day, saw this being sold, bought it and then put this right on the dog's collar, Holly's collar, to help her not bark. It did two things to teach her not to bark. When she would bark, first of all, it would let out this high-pitched alarm sound, beep, super loud. And if that wasn't bad enough, what do you think the other thing was that it did? It shocked her. Look at that metal thing. Yeah, she wore right there, and if she'd bark, and it was quite effective. Holly no longer barked. She had other problems as a result, right, of this
notice
thing.
There are no more infomercials about
I
that.
know. It's probably illegal. So you guys, Canada, never would have done something like this, right? No, I know. U.S., what is our problem? So I told my brother, I said, go out and get the super barker breaker, because let's see what happens if we put it on Dad. Seriously. So I had my younger brother, reach around his chair and put this thing right on his throat. And then I leaned in, because I wasn't sure if it'd even work or what would happen. So I barked as loud as I could. Well, instantly, this thing, loud, high-pitched, piercing alarm, and it goes, ding. Well, I'm telling you, my father shot up out of his chair, looked around real quick, and ran out the front door. He's gone. And my brother and I just looked at each other like, what just happened? Because we thought it, and he'd kind of stumble around, and then we'd laugh, but he's gone. And he's running, and he's a marathon runner. So, 27, I don't know how far he was going to go. But we just collapsed to the ground laughing out of control. And the longer we laughed, I started to realize that he wasn't coming back. And then I got nervous thinking, well, what if, we have a history of heart problems in our family. So what if he's on the grass and I'd have to, shock him back. And so as we're debating what to do, the front door opens. I swear this is what he does. So the front door opens and he comes walking in, crouched real low, real slowly walking, sniffing. So he's just sniffing around. I'm thinking, we fried his brain, mom's gonna kill us. Well, he hears us and he's like, boys, front and center. So as we walked, he's like, what'd you two do to me this time? So I showed him and he goes, that's really actually quite funny. So he goes, well done. Not as good as scaring your wife from a bush out front of the church, but it was close. So I said, Dad, what happened? Why did you run out of the house? He goes, the strangest thing. He goes, I was sound asleep. We're like, we know that part. He goes, when all of a sudden, the fire alarm went off. Now, if you heard this, it really does sound like a fire alarm. So I understood that. And so we're laughing and teasing him. When all of a sudden I went, wait a minute here. So what you're saying, that as our father, upon hearing the fire alarm, your first natural fatherly instinct was to run out of the house? And he's like, oh yeah, that is true. I should have looked around for you boys. We're going, do you think? Sadly, we did stuff like that all the time to my poor father when he was just out for rest. And I would say that there are those who will battle against us, right? When you try to rest, right? Your kids don't like this. This happens to you.
Oh gosh, yes. I've started getting up early in the morning. I hate the morning. I am such a night owl, but I know that if I don't get up and go to my spin class, indoor cycling, in the morning, I cannot sit all day and listen to people. And I want to be attentive to people. And so I get up early, I leave. That's hard for me to get up early. But Annie, our 12-year-old, is so annoyed that I would possibly leave the house in the morning and not be there right when she wakes up to make sure that her lunch is made, her hair is done. I get home in plenty of time to do that, but she wants it done at a certain time. So she'll start complaining, won't she?
Oh, it's hilarious. She'll walk in, where's Mom? Honey, she's at spin. She goes every morning. Oh, I can't believe it. The peasant. burn her village, and where is she to meet my needs? And so I will constantly say to her, Annie, this is what mom needs to take good care of herself. This is in your best interest. Wow, tell me when she gets back so I can do my hair. It's crazy, right? But we will get fought.
Yeah, and I had to
this.
fight through the guilt of that, like maybe I should be home doing her hair and making her lunch. You know, exactly when she wakes up.
And breakfast.
Breakfast and your breakfast,
I love
too.
bacon.
I know.
By the way.
But I realize the days that I don't do that, I don't sit well. I don't do what I need to do during the day well. And so I know that that is part of my job. I mean, it's nice when Greg assists me in that and says, "Oh no, I've got Annie's hair," which would never happen. But
I could do her hair.
you do your best.
I didn't say it looks good, but I can do it. Like
You
the
try.
side ponytail that sticks up
try.
somehow. I don't know how that works.
But it's great when Greg, it was like, "Oh, do you need help? It's not his job. It's great when he comes alongside of me. It's my job. There's no one else that God gave that job to but me and us as individuals." And it's recognizing that somehow in our culture, it is believed that when we get married, that suddenly it's his job to make sure that I am well cared for. And it's nice when he remembers, but there's times he's going to have his own stuff going on.
I mean, rarely.
I mean, yeah.
Come on.
You're just so self-sacrificing.
Yes. Well, as a matter of fact, how many of you had the unity candle ceremony in your
We did.
wedding? Who had that? Yeah, don't be shy. There's not like sinners. Why? Yeah, but that's a great example because how we perform the unity candle ceremony, right, is we have these two candles on the side that represents her and him, right, husband and wife. And then we take those and what do we do with them? Right, we put them together and light the one big massive candle symbolizing the two becoming
One.
And so then what do we do with the individual candles? Telling you at weddings, she has to like calm me because I want to stand up and go, no! Because as nice and as romantic as that looks, that is so theologically wrong. Just because we get married and become one, we're still two very, very different individuals, right? We don't lose that. I'd be okay if we light the one and then keep the two lit. I'm good with that because that's a better...
You like the sand ceremony now.
I do.
You know, with the two colors and don't they do a third one for the marriage? And then they blend them all together, but you can still see the three different entities because a marriage is made up of two individuals. And then there's this third entity, the marriage. And all three need to be attended to. And so that's what we are presenting, is that how then do we do this job? That we are intentional about being well cared for individuals. And so what does rest look like? Again, we're seizing, we're allowing our body to recuperate, to recharge, many different things that we do for rest. And you see at the very top, sleep, 7.5 to 9 hours. How many of you typically get 7.5? I heard a bull. Yeah, many of us do not. And I try. I try. I'll try to go to bed 15 minutes earlier. And, you know, then a kid gets up or, you know, something happens or I wake up and can't sleep. But it's important that we battle for that 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep. The research, it's super interesting, says actually that women need more sleep. And the last time I said this, it came out very wrong. So I'm going to be careful about how I say this. They say that women are impacted by losing sleep more than men. Because remember, I'll go back to what we talked about last night with the brain research, and that we use our brains a whole lot because we're never resting. See, I said it better this time. Last time I just said...
Still feels laced with judgment. I'm just not sure
last time
why.
I said, as women, we use our brains
guys?
way more than men, so we need more sleep. That didn't go over well.
But all the guys were like, what did you say? We were thinking about nothing. So
I know,
did
so
you
they missed
say
it,
something?
you know.
Yeah.
There wasn't the appalling...
Yeah.
So they say that women, because we're going back and forth between the right and the left hemisphere, whatever, need a lot more sleep, which is, I never heard that before. They say, though, if men are doing the same thing and not having their nothing spaces, they need more sleep, too. So very intriguing. I did not do the research, right?
So don't shoot the messenger is what you're saying?
Basically.
Okay, gotcha.
And they're saying that women are more irritable in the morning if we don't get our sleep. Now that, I'm like, were they looking in my window, watching me? And what do we do when we don't get enough sleep? You know, we start drinking energy drinks or coffee. I just saw this piece of research that the average parent, between the time when they start a child in kindergarten until that child graduates high school, will drink something like 7,340 cups of coffee in that amount of time. Crazy, right? That's a lot of.
Seems light.
That's a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
They said it's an average of 3 cups a
Yeah.
day to survive school years.
Wow.
Oh,
It's
I tell ya.
believable.
Yeah. So sleep is a big deal. It's a big one, and that we need to be responsible as far as how can we best get that sleep. You know, then there's also laughter. The interesting thing about laughter is when we are laughing, we release melatonin. And melatonin is a natural sleep hormone. And so hopefully you guys slept well last night. We always sleep really well when we travel. We laugh because we usually get up really early in the morning we travel, but we live at 7,300 feet. 7,300 feet. So we don't get a lot of oxygen. So when we travel, we get oxygen, and it's helpful. We find that we sleep better. So it's a good thing. So it's important that as we're laughing, that we recognize laughter is good for us, and laughter is great for a marriage, and it releases this melatonin. Great thing. Music. I know for Greg, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
After we teach the seminar, we'll get on our flight home. He will immediately put his noise-canceling headphones on. And I'm very different. I'm more extroverted. Greg is more introverted. He recharges, more individually. I recharge by being with people. And so after a seminar, I'll just be talking. I'll talk his head off all the way to the airport. And then we'll get on the plane. His noise-canceling headphones come out, and I'll be like, "We're done talking.
Mm-hmm.
No more talking." Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And thank goodness, Greg loves it. I will even talk to strangers. So this one time we got on the plane, and he's on the aisle. I'm in the middle. There's a lady on the window. We get on the plane. We're pretty exhausted. But I was in the middle of writing a book, 10 Things a Husband Needs from His Wife. Of course, you don't believe there's 10 things. Greg says there's 2. I say there's 10. So I'm writing this book.
Feed me and sleep with me. That's right. I'm pretty good.
I
You
say
get
there's
8 bonus
yeah,
things.
eight
so.
bonus things. Yeah. So I'm typing. Once we take off, I start typing and I'm writing, and I can tell the woman sitting next to me is reading everything I'm typing. It was annoying. I mean, isn't that? I just wanted to type. Please stop reading everything I'm typing. And then before I knew it, she's tapping me, and she says, "Hey, have you ever heard of Focus on the Family?" And I was like, "No way. We work for Focus on the Family." I'm tapping Greg. Greg's music goes up higher. I'm like, okay, he's not going to talk. So I start talking to this woman. We sat there and had the best conversation because she was telling me she listens to the daily broadcast on Focus on the Family every single day, and after she listens to it, she calls her sister in another state. They talk and they process about what the conversation was on the broadcast that day. And then she continued to tell me about her marriage and how difficult her marriage was and how this ministers to her heart so much. And I know for me, just sitting there and having a conversation like that just brings so much rest to my soul. But it is very, very different for you.
Yeah, and I've had people at seminars come up and say, now, sitting there on the plane, you're not making yourself available. The Holy Spirit might be moving. And after I say, shh, to them, I will say, listen, even Jesus took time away. He knew the exact moment of his death. He knew the extent of his ministry opportunity. Yet he still modeled again and again and again. There were times he knew his limits. He knew when he needed to step back and recharge. Because I know that I'm returning to my children, and I don't want the super Barker breaker going at me.
It looks a little bit different now.
I want to be open. I want to be available. And I know that on the plane, just listening to my praise and worship music, that just has an incredible way of just beginning to recharge me. So again, I'm responsible for me. And I know that that's a big part of how I can care for me in a godly way.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe it's one of these things that were listed. up here. Eating right gardening can be very therapeutic. You can go ahead and click it to the next one. You know, prayer, meditating on God's word, completing a puzzle, playing a game. I know for me at one point, we were at work, and my friends, do you guys play bunco here? Do you know what bunco is?
They're Christians, so
I know.
no.
Some people have been like, it's Christian gambling. No, they don't. Some ladies will play this game and they'll do cash prizes. We just do gifts. So it's just gifts. So it's clean, fun. So my friends wanted to play this game at lunchtime. And so I was at work and I go, I got to leave. I got to go play bunco. And Greg's like, who plays bunco at lunch? I'm like, I know. My friends want to play bunco. So put in the address for the house that it was at, my GPS. I'm driving, and the GPS said, you have arrived. So I pulled the car over. There was all kinds of cars, and there was even a sign that said, come on in, and, you know, like a garden sign, come on in. So I walked in, and I was looking around. I thought, gosh, this looks different. This doesn't look like the house we've played at before, but maybe we switched houses, you know, whatever. So I walk in, I get a snack, get a drink, have some conversation, and I'm like, you know, these women don't look familiar to me. They must have had a lot of subs this month. I mean, interesting.
Subs.
Well, you have to have subs because you have to have a certain amount of people to play.
You.
So then,
and your other addicts, but whatever.
We're all in the kitchen. This lady says, she's down in the living room, and she says, okay, come on down. Are you guys ready to start the PTA meeting? And she could see my face, and she goes, are you not here for the PTA meeting? I go, no, I'm here to play bunco. And she looked at me, and she goes, well, who plays bunco at lunchtime? I go, I know. And she goes, well, who are you looking for? And I told her, and she goes, they live 2 houses up. It's like, so I essentially walked into a stranger's house, ate their food, got a drink, had some great conversation, but as an extrovert, that was awesome. I loved it. So I left and I went and played bunco at the right house. I did find the right house eventually.
That's how we've put our kids through college, is Erin's bunco playing, so well done.
No. So maybe it is for you playing a game, doing a puzzle. It's interesting because the top bestseller list are a lot of these coloring books for adults. And they say that just sitting and coloring does something so phenomenal because you're sitting, you're resting, but it also helps the brain because it's just kind of mindless. And that's why these the number 1 bestsellers are coloring books for adults. So interesting. And so maybe it's one of these other things, reading a book, maybe lounging around. It looks different for each of us. The big question is, what does rest look like for you? And I know many different times we've taken that lounging around seriously. Yeah. I can remember when we first were married, probably 6 months into our marriage, we shared last night that the first years of our marriage were challenging. We didn't know how to handle conflict. You heard some of the stories that emerged from those first years of our marriage, specifically the laundry story. So thank goodness we had a mentor that stepped into our lives, and he said, you guys, I want you to take a day off work. I was working as a labor and delivery nurse. You were in seminary. He said, I want you to take a day off. I want you to go up into the Colorado mountains and just take a day off and just lounge, just rest. But there's one rule. One rule. It was very specific, and I am very rule-oriented. So when someone says, this is the rule, I follow it. Someone else in this relationship is not a rule follower.
I see rules as more guidelines, suggestions, helpful bits of information. Who else? Yeah, okay, see? Who are the rule followers? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, usually it's one or the other.
He did say the one rule is do not talk about hot topics. No issues, no conflict. You're just going to enjoy the day, enjoy the Colorado beauty, enjoy each other together. Go have a picnic lunch up in the mountains. Just relax. And so we were doing that until someone brought up a sensitive topic.
Well, I didn't mean to start a fight. We were talking, singing to the radio, just laughing, just enjoying. And I tried to make light of, crack a joke around, I guess, a pretty sensitive issue in our marriage. I didn't think it'd erupt into a big fight. But man, she took offense to that. You could tell it pushed a button. She snapped, said something to me. I was offended. I said something back. And man, all of a sudden now we're in this big argument. And it got to the point that she became so mad at me that not only did she no longer want to talk to me, but she didn't want to see me anymore in the car, which is not easy to do.
Do you ever do this when you get so annoyed, you know, just arms crossed and you're just staring out the window? Like I turned my entire body. I didn't want to be in this car anymore with you.
No, I couldn't. I was trying to apologize and re-engage because I don't know about you, but it's awkward going on a picnic when your spouse isn't talking to you. And I had no luck. And we're in the middle of nowhere now. We're on this gravel road heading towards the destination of our lounging around picnic. And so I'm on this dirt road, went around this huge boulder, and all of a sudden I had to slam on my brakes because I almost ran smack into a horse. Like Seabiscuit, right out in the middle of the road. I didn't grow up around horses, so I was like, what on earth? Why is this thing here? So I pulled our little pickup truck next to the horse, rolled down my window, and I was just going to tell him to shoo. You know, you're going to get struck by a car, turn into glue, whatever. You got to get out of the road. And so as I'm telling this horse to move, he comes over and he pokes his head straight into my pickup truck. I've got this massive head, big eye right there. And I'm like, what to do? And I'm trying to say, Erin, you got to see this. It's a horse inside our pickup truck. And she's so mad and so stubborn.
I wouldn't fall for it. I'm like, right, there's a horse in our pickup. But I could hear this heavy breathing and feel this wet spray hitting my arm. I'm like, what is going on? So I turn around.
Yeah.
There's a horse.
So I'm asking her, what do I do? Because I tried moving up a little bit, but the thing was just following right along. I'm like, do I speed up? Will his head right off? That'll really ruin our picnic. So we're debating this as the horse is sniffing around because apparently he was hungry. He must have been out for a long walk. He just wants something to eat. So as we're debating what do we do about this horse, he decides that he wants to eat what we had been eating, which was a bag of these ketchup chips. We don't have these in the States. Why? These are the most delicious things I've ever had. Tim gave us some of these last night, and I stayed up all night eating these. So, thank you. These are delicious. Has anybody never had a ketchup chip before? Seriously, you live here. These are readily available, and you've never had. All right, here you go.
Oh,
You try those, and we want to see your face as you take the first one. Because this is what the Israelites were eating in the wilderness. I'm convinced. Tim, this is manna, right? Manna. So I don't know what chips we were eating, but the horse wanted one. The problem for me was the one that he ultimately chose happened to be the chip that was sitting in my lap. I kid you not, this massive horse with his big old buck teeth leans over and bites me in that area. Well, as you can imagine, I instantly, the shooting pain throughout my body, as all I could hear was him biting in the crunch that I'm praying was just the chip. So I let out this ear-piercing, high-pitched, scream. Scared the horse. Remember, he kind of reared up, hit his head, and kind of galloped on down the road. But I'm left just petrified. I don't know what's gone on there. And so I turned to my wife, my helpmate, who's also a nurse, remember, for not just support, but maybe medical care. And I'll never forget looking at her, and she had that sort of look on her face. Like, it's almost Christmas. The Grinch. Remember the evil Grinch? Big smile. That's what she looked like. Because in that moment, I knew that she had taken the chip and put it in my lap. Like to get back at me some passive-aggressive way. I could have been seriously injured.
I wish I would have thought of that, but I didn't. I did not.
She has denied this for 6 years now. I'm on her deathbed. I know she's going to pull me in close and whisper, I put the chip in your lap. I know. Hey, the truth will set you what? There's freedom right now. You could admit to all of us that, all right.
Didn't do it.
Well, it sort of put a damper on our lounging around for that particular day. But we have found, though, that a lot of those things, you're right, give rest. Someone told you about, what is it, sloth?
Oh, sloth yoga. Someone came up after we taught this, and they said, we do sloth yoga on Sundays. I was like, oh, that's intriguing. What is it? They said, we stay in bed, and the kids will come join us, and we'll have breakfast and drink coffee. Sloth yoga. Just hang out in bed. And then
We've
they go to
adopted
church.
it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what about you? Here's what we want you to do. I want you to turn to each other. If you're here by yourself, just kind of think this through. I want you to turn to each other. We're going to give you just a couple minutes to talk about this. In this season, because every season's different, what would give Erin and I rest maybe this season was very different when we had young kids or as we were taking care of elderly parents or new job, whatever. We know that's all different. So just think about the season that you're in. What would bring you rest? So turn to each other and talk about this. So guys, ask your wife, so you lead out, say what would give you rest in this season, be a great listener, and then you guys can flip-flop here in like 45 seconds. Yes, what would give you rest? Why? We're way long. We're way long. Yeah. I'm just gonna buzz through the light. I'm gonna buzz through the light part. I seriously love it when we get to sit in our chairs and Olive comes up and sits in our lap and we just have something to drink and just talk. Just do the high and low. I like that.
Yeah. You can't sit outside.
I know. But we get Olive though.
What?
I said we get Olive though. All right, so hopefully you've gotten a little bit clear of an idea of what that looks like. And again, it's not that Erin is asking me permission for her to figure out what gives her rest. Understand, it's really her responsibility. That's my responsibility. I want to be a great assistant so the better I can understand what helps to give her rest. Love that. I want to help that. But in the end, that's, as individuals, that's our responsibility. So rest is an important part. On the other hand, life. I love this verse that I will make breath enter you and you will come to life. So what does life then really look like? This is devoted time. So we're devoting our time, our resources, because this is our responsibility into what invigorates us, to what brings passion, hope, creativity, joy. We're looking for experiences that help us really come to life. So again, just like rest, there's lots of things. So we're just trying to prime the pump. Be thinking about this. For me, this season, what would really help to bring me alive? Maybe it's going on a mission trip. I love Mark Batterston, pastor who wrote Chasing the Wild Goose and many other really great books. But I love Chasing the Wild Goose talked about if you want to ignite your spiritual relationship, go on a mission trip. There's something about that just brings life. Conquer a fear, try a new activity, help out a marriage that's in crisis, exercise or work out, hike in the mountains because you guys have so many mountains around, right? So for those of us who live near mountains like me, so for me, living in Colorado, this is one of the most life-giving experiences. I cannot wait until the warmer weather comes around, just so that we can go up into the mountains. My middle daughter and I, there's 56 14,000 foot peaks in Colorado, and she wants to hike every one of those and summit. So somewhere along the line, she said, and you're going to go with me. And man, the climb is tough. I mean, there's nothing restful about getting up at 2 a.m. so we can be on the trail about 4:30. But I tell you, man, that's the payoff right there when we get to the top. But what gives me life, though, is I'm with my daughter, who's finishing up university, finishing up her nursing degree. So I don't get to have that kind of time, and we get to talk, and I get caught up in her life. This one time, it may have been on the trail to this very peak, as we kind of cleared tree level. So that's probably about 11,500, 12,000 feet, somewhere in there. So I mean, we're making good time. We're now in this kind of high grassy area, and we're just walking along. And we're talking, it's just, it's perfect. Like I'm saying, it's just filling me with such life. Well, as I'm walking, I'm getting tired, the oxygen's less and less. All of a sudden, I feel something hit my leg. And I could feel like claw into my leg. And no oxygen. It was a little bit slow. I was like, what is that? And I looked and I went, because there was a huge squirrel that had jumped out of the high grass onto my leg. And I'm just staring at it going, why is there a squirrel? Like, I couldn't process. And I'm just looking going, oh, squirrel. Whoa. And so Murphy just instantly, she had her hiking pole, and she just goes, whack. And the squirrel, back into and we just kept walking on like nothing had happened. So I love those kinds of fun experiences that go on. Erin and I'll show you a picture up on the screen. Erin and I love doing this as well, and so we leave the kids, and she and I will go and hike. And again, there's something just amazing about being out and doing that. Other things on the list as you're thinking, because maybe you do have beaches nearby. I don't even know where we are, but if you do, great, go for those kind of walk. Learning a foreign language, investing time in a hobby. Another thing that gives me so much life is fishing. Any other fishermen, fisherwomen? Yeah, I love that. So there's something for me being up in the mountains, a beautiful stream. I'm there, I can hear the water, just see God's beauty. It brings me close to Him, which is giving me life. I just love that. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even have to catch fish, but I do. So this was this summer. Look at that one, yeah. So you talk about giving me life, so catching fish. So Annie, our 12-year, she's just been dying to go. And I'm like, honey, you know what? That's not probably going to give me life, because I'll be, trying to dig your hook out of a tree or whatever. And so I made her practice. She practiced over the summer. She worked so hard. So finally I said, let's go. So I took her up in the mountains. And so it was her very first experience, got her right down to the river edge. She's got her little waders on, and I showed her, okay, you see that spot right there? I'm telling you, there's a fish there. So she's so nervous, so excited. So she takes her pole back, and so she releases the line, and this is what happened to our sweet Annie. So she hooked herself in the head. So I'm just glad you weren't there.
Yeah, I didn't love seeing that picture. I'm like, whatever goes on up there, I don't want to know about it.
Yeah. So it came out quite easy. But anyway, she did catch a fish on that trip, though, so I was so proud. But this is the kind of stuff that just gives me life. So think about for you, again, whatever that might be, cooking, starting your own business, photography, travel, whatever. It's your job to figure out, what is it that I am investing my time in and my resources in that will give me life? Now, for some of you, you're going, yeah, way to go. You just gave my spouse permission to go play golf all Saturday. Thanks a lot. Again, my responsibility, but here's the test. Okay, this is important. Here's the litmus test for this. If I'm saying, like going fishing, if I'm saying to my wife and my family that by me investing time and resources into fishing is going to fill me up, then I should have more to give. My family then should benefit from those activities. If I'm doing those things and there's no benefit and I'm not coming back full, so that I have more to give out, then it's probably something that I really need to pray about and reevaluate. Because, again, self-care means that I'm investing so that I'm full, so I can turn right around and give out. So, same thing, turn to each other. What in this season would give you life? So for me, this is hard because now we're in the cold weather. So all these things that I love to do when it's warm, now I have to reevaluate and figure out, okay, in this season as it's cold, what would give me life? So turn to each other real quick, 60 seconds, 30 seconds apiece, go. Yes. Oh, yeah. That's a good one. I'm excited about that. Oh, and we're not even here next weekend.
You know, up by, what's the where we went hiking with Taylor and Caleb?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's a good snowshoe route. And across
good.
Miller
And we
State
could just
Park
have
has trails.
Murphy meet us up there. That's good. I like that. What about you? Snowshoeing? What you're saying? Yeah. I like that one. And of course, I love now that we're in that season of going to our plays.
Oh,
Yeah, that
that's
gives me a lot of life. So, cool.
Yeah.
So you're on the summary. All right. So again, hopefully that's giving you more clarity. Erin reminded me of something we had already talked about that's going to be super life-giving, which is snowshoeing. She got us some snowshoes.
At the end of last spring, they were all on sale. So I thought, we could do that in the winter. And that'll take care of the hiking. You'll be outdoors.
I'm well cared
It'll be
for.
cold.
Thank you.
But, yeah. So it's an opportunity. Again, what is it that brings you rest, which is stopping, being intentional about allowing yourself to mend and to recuperate so you have more to give, as well as life. What is it that sets your soul on fire? What is it that sets your soul on fire? So it's both in combination. What brings you rest probably won't bring you life. What brings you life may not bring you rest. It may look very differently. What brings your spouse rest versus what brings you rest, or what brings them life versus what brings you life, and that's okay. You can be a great assistant to go, you know what, you've had a really busy season. Gosh, let me take the kids and you go. But the key is, after you come back from doing this, from taking great care of you, the litmus test is, do I have more to give others? Does it benefit everybody, including me? Again, we are called to love God and love others as we love ourselves, not instead of ourselves. So it's recognizing godly self-care is in the best interest of me and of everyone that I interact with, because I would then have more to give, and I can give from a place of abundance instead of emptiness and exhaustion, because we were created to love God and love others. And how can we best do that? From a place of fullness.
Love this quote. Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do it, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Well, Tim, as you come on up, Erin and I want to pray for you guys. So God, we pray, give us such a clear vision, Lord, of what would bring us rest and what would bring us life, Lord. Maybe for some of us, it's this great reminder that in fact is our responsibility. Like, you've entrusted us with stewarding us, Lord, because your goal is to love this world through us, Lord. So help us to have full hearts that are open, that have plenty to give out. So God, just continue to give us a vision of what that would look like. It's in your name we pray. Amen.